I'm going to go ahead and get everyone checked in here. So I see that we have a Patrick Hitchens. Mr. Hitchens, if you could give me confirm that that's your name and tell me who you're representing here today.
Yes, good morning. My name is Patrick Hitchens, and I am I'm the person who applied for the zoning relief, the variance request for 1309 Chase Avenue. And my legal representative and counsel on the line is Mike Spillane.
Okay, great. Mr. Hitchens, do you reside at the 1309 Chase?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Great. Welcome. All right, Mr. Spillane, is that right?
That is correct. I'm here representing Mr. Hitchens and his spouse.
Gotcha. All right. Welcome. I see that we have a Jimmy Baker on. Is Jimmy Baker?
Yeah, correct. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I'm just a neighbor. I live at 1301 Chase on the corner of Chase and Dane. My garage borders the alley access to the proposed garage on the north side of the alley.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you intend on providing any testimony here today, or are you just here to observe?
I'm here to observe. I guess if there's any questions or concerns, I mean, I can chime in.
Okay, great. If at any point you do want to give testimony, at that point we'll ask you to activate your camera, but it's fine if you want to keep it off until that time. I just like to give people a heads up.
Sure,
just so they have some warning. Okay, great. I see that we have two members of the zoning department here, Emily A. House and Matt Scheid. Welcome to both of you. And are we expecting anyone else on the applicant owner side to join us here today?
No.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started then.
Mr. Sturkey, just for the record, Patrick's spouse is with him, and I apologize, I'm going to butcher your name. I believe it's Shukla Janki.
Yep, think John like the guy's name. Hi.
Gotcha. Hello, Shukla Janki.
Yep.
And she is listed as an owner and applicant on our application.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you for mentioning that. I was not aware, so I'll just put that in here real quick. All right. I need to read through our hearing script. This basically will just cover the procedure for the hearing. Then we'll go ahead and get started. So this is the July 12th, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Case before us today is case number ZH20230097. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any potential opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. The public will then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. If the applicant is represented by an attorney, the applicant's attorney may cross-examine any person who has testified at this hearing. In the event that I will give our zoning department an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to their staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant shall have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, the last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, and you are not an attorney, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. Mr. Baker, we can swear you in later if and when you decide to provide any testimony. But everyone who knows that they would like to testify now, I'd like for them to make sure that they are off mute. I need you to raise your right hand and to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I need everyone to answer out loud. Okay, great.
I do.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see who's going to take the lead for us here today. And Mr. Spillane, typically how I do this with attorneys, if you want to provide opening statements or like an overview, you can do that. If you'd like your clients to provide an overview, they can do that. And then moving forward through the presentation, if you have questions you want to ask them, sort of like direct examination style, you can do that. Or if you just want to turn the floor over to them for them to testify, that's fine as well. Pretty liberal about how you want to orient the presentation. So with that, the floor is yours.
Not a problem. We'll start with a brief opening statement, kind of just laying out exactly what we're asking for in terms of relief. So our clients reside in the North Side neighborhood. Their house is a little bit unique in that it's F2 zoning, but doesn't really have designated off-street parking in front of the house. Instead, they access the house for their driveway through the rear of the house through a private easement. So from the street facing, it looks as though they're all walk-ups with a front yard and the stairs, but you don't ever see a garage. They are very, very narrow lots. The relief they're looking for here today is to be given a variance of the zoning code to basically get a 1.5 foot setback on either side, because that's really how wide they need it to fit a garage that could easily park 2 cars in it. By doing so, essentially in the back of their house right now, we submitted pictures showing this. It's just an unfinished gravel lot. This improvement would make the house look much better from the alleyway, and that would be a brand new structure in line with the zoning code that would allow them to park their cars off street. And from the front of the house, they wouldn't have to use any street parking, would open up additional street parking. It would also be in line with other houses in the area. We submitted pictures of the streets around the neighborhood showing that this type of garage is in line with what others have requested, including variance use on it of getting 1/2 foot or no foot setbacks on some of the pictures we submitted. Further, I know there was a letter submitted, and she's not here to testify, but to address her concerns, this garage is going to be built completely on our client's property. It will not affect the easement at all. Whether or not our clients are pulling off the easement to park on the gravel lot or park under a garage they built, it will not affect. Further, her concerns really were about 3 houses facing our client's house and not actually her own house, because her access point is on the other side of the road through another private easement. So this would very much be in line. You would hardly be able to see the street at all. You'd have to take a pretty extreme angle to see it. It would actually bring the house further in compliance with the zoning code, because currently they do not have off-street parking. They just kind of have the gravel lot in the back of their house. And it would be a very minor relief of the zoning code in order to get this built. It would cause their property value to go up, that benefit to the city, because eventually you're going to recapture that in your taxes. And it would cause construction jobs to be created while this is being built. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my clients, and I'm going to ask them just a few questions. I'm going to let Patrick take the lead on this, and basically just get his explanation of why he's wanting this. So Patrick, you've been sworn in.
Yes, I have.
And can you explain to the zoning board a little bit of why you're wanting to undertake this expense to build a garage in your backyard?
As you mentioned previously, we do wish to have the improved off-street parking and bring it further in line with the zoning code. Further, we would like to improve our property so that we can have that covered off-street parking, which would provide increase our property value, but would also provide greater security of our vehicles and valuables in that area as well.
Do you think adding this garage is going to do anything to significantly change the nature of the neighborhood?
No, I do not.
Do you think is it going to be built in a first-class manner so that is a nice-looking structure? Or is this going to be some shanty you're putting up?
No, it will be in a first-class manner. We've hired an architect and a general contractor to perform the work.
And this is your personal residence, so you want it to look as nice as possible.
That's correct.
And then you read over the recommendations of the zoning board, including the requirement that you build a driveway, and you're okay with accepting that conditional use.
Yes, we plan to include a driveway as part of the garage that would improve that part of our land, and also ease any issues with the easement and make it look nicer for our neighbors as well.
And you've submitted letters from a couple of your neighbors saying you know of no opposition other than the one opposition letter you got from the neighbor on the other side, correct?
That is correct.
Do you have anything else you want to tell the zoning board that I haven't asked you?
Not at this time.
And then briefly, Ms. Janke, and I apologize once again if I butchered
No, you're good.
that. If I were to ask you substantially the same questions, would your testimony be substantially the same?
Yes, it would be.
I have no further questions for my clients.
Okay, great. Do you anticipate that this is going to cause any issues with maneuverability or other neighbors' ability to navigate that easement drive? And this is for, I guess, for the owners.
No, we do not.
Okay.
And further, to my knowledge, we are the only individuals who are a part of this private easement that have taken steps to improve the overall easement by smoothing out gravel and providing additional gravel that had been removed due to erosion and any of our moving into the home.
Gotcha. And how many homes does the easement actually serve?
There are 7 homes.
Okay. And the actual requested relief is 1.5 feet. Rear yard accessory structure setback, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So gotcha. And maybe this is for the zoning department. Typically it would be 3 feet here. So
That's
they
right.
wanted to-
And it's a side yard setback. Technically, they're compliant with the rear yard.
Gotcha. Okay. So side yard, it'll be 1.5 feet from the property line on the east and
Both
west
sides.
sides. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions that I have right now. Mr. Spillane, any questions based on my questions?
No, I believe Mr. Baker's turned on his camera. He may have something he wants to say.
Sure. Yeah. Just hold tight 1 second, Mr. Baker. Actually, I think unless there's anything else from the applicants and owners at this time, I think we are ready to take some testimony from Mr. Baker. So, Mr. Baker, what would you like to tell us?
I mostly just wanted some clarification. I wasn't clear on the driveway. So Patrick, are you planning on paving that whole gravel alleyway or just a portion like an apron outside of the garage?
Just we plan on having a poured concrete like lip and driveway leading into the easement. And then I also planned to have the concrete company provide some additional gravel in the area and smooth out the ruts in the easement just to make sure it looks nice, and that any movement of gravel or dirt caused by the concrete specifically would be smoothed out and not do any not harm access to the easement at all.
Okay, I just wasn't clear on that. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't really potentially see any issues with it. I think as long as if they were asking for a variance that was running like north and south in the long direction of their house, I think that could potentially pose an issue. But I think it running along the width of their property line, east and west by 1.5 feet, I think that shouldn't cause any issues with anything. And I believe there's enough room back there for like turn radius. I think that would be the only other concern I would have, is that like making sure that there's just enough turn radius that it doesn't affect anybody on the Vandalia homes on that south side as you're trying to make the turn to go into the garage. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty broad back there. I don't think it would really be an issue. I'm not exactly sure. Like, I haven't looked at any of the survey documents or anything for that, what that easement actually entails. It seems like it's fairly wide though, before you get into the Vandalia homes properties. Okay.
Yeah. So Mr. Baker, your garage, you said, is borders. So would that be to the easement, to the north
the
of
north
the easement?
side. So if you're turning left, if you're headed north on Dane and you're turning left into the alley that goes back to the easement access, there's a home on the left, and then on the right of that, as you pull in, is my garage and my property off to the north side of that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to tell us, Mr. Baker?
Not really. I mean, I think, like I said, just the east and west 1.5 feet. I don't think that will really affect anything other than they're direct neighbors on either side, which they already have a fence constructed, I believe, on Bovic's side on the east side of the property. I can't remember if the west side, I believe you also have a fence over there with the next neighbor. I can't remember.
Okay.
So it would
Great.
basically just be encroaching on a neighbor's fence by 1.5 feet.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Baker. Appreciate your testimony and for being here today. I'm going to go over to the zoning department. So just to put this in other terms, if they were to shorten the width of the garage by 1.5 feet on either side, this would be permitted by right.
Correct.
So this isn't about how close it is to the easement. It's about how close it is to the neighboring properties, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With that, is there anything you'd like to testify about in addition to your staff report?
Let's see. I mean, it would be difficult to have a 2-car garage that would be 19 feet wide from outside wall to outside wall. I mean, but potentially impossible, very difficult. I think the requested relief, although it is a setback variance of 1.5 feet, we're also improving the condition of the property by creating a paved sheltered parking space, which the zoning code would require and is not currently provided. Other note I would say is they could build a 6-foot privacy fence all the way to the property line. So some of the concerns that I think were raised that Mr. Spillane addressed about visibility back there, I don't think the garage would be any worse than something that they could do by right in the rear yard. So with that, I don't have any other major comments. Staff recommends approval. It's in an area that you wouldn't really see from the right of way. And I don't have any major concerns about it.
And by right away, you don't mean the easement though, right? Because
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, the easement is private property that the applicant and a few other neighbors have access to, but would not generally be seen by the public.
gotcha. Okay. All right. Thanks, Matt. All right, going back to Mr. Spillane and the owners. Anything you'd like to say in response to the comments from Mr. Baker or Mr. Lashad?
No, we think we'll rest on our case and what we've submitted to the zoning.
Okay. On that last, I'm trying to, I'd gotten a decent amount of correspondence from the neighbor that submitted the letter in opposition, and I was anticipating that she would actually be here today to speak for herself, but just for whatever reason is not here. So are there any other arguments? I mean, I think she made an argument that this easement, essentially in the way that a property dispute happened with Vandalia, that this is essentially like a front yard for some of these folks, or like sort of a right of way and a front right of way. So did you want to respond to that argument at all?
I can address that. So I feel sympathetic for what happened to Vandalia. I think if you were to ask my clients, they would say they're sympathetic. They prefer Vandalia was treated as a road. Unfortunately, that is not what the Common Pleas Court found, nor what the city asked for the court to do. I reviewed the appeal. I reviewed the original case. Her argument that's now a front-facing road, it's still a private easement. It's still a gravel easement. If you're looking at the pictures, there's already fences back there. There's already, my clients parked their car back there on gravel spaces. It's not like my client's house is facing towards them as it is a front door to them. It is, they are looking into an alley if they believe that is their front yard, or they're looking onto Vandalia from the other side. As stated by Mr. Lashid, they could put up a 6-foot privacy fence and that'd be perfectly within the zoning rights. So that's not really going to change the appearance of what they're looking at. They'll just be seeing also a garage now. So I don't think that's really going to have a major effect on the character of the neighborhood. Obviously, it's my client's home. They want to make sure it looks as nice as possible. So it's going to be built in a first-class manner. And one of the other concerns she had was that it could impede on their use of the easement, which I think we've addressed, because we're not asking for the back of the property setback. So this isn't going to touch or affect the easement. It's going to be completely on their property. the turn-in's going to be the same, whether or not they're pulling into a garage or they're pulling into anything else. The other concern she had about privacy and other issues, as we said, a 6-foot privacy fence could go up that could provide cover also. So I don't think this goes against the spirit of the zoning. Who bought it, you know, and once again, unfortunately, what happened on Vandalia is tragic. I wish they would have found a prescriptive easement, if you're asking me honestly, but that's not really going to affect my clients here because their house is front facing towards the other street. And at no point in time does this ever look like a front yard to the people looking across the alleyway. They're looking at an unfinished gravel easement, not somebody's front yard.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to say, either in response to her letter or in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today?
No, and I would just, for the record, say we've responded to her letter, but she has not been here to provide live evidence. So I ask that, you know, her letter be given the credence any other letter would have been given supporting the proposed garage.
Gotcha.
That we're
Do you
also
mean like
submitting.
less?
No, I mean, if we're going to bring in hearsay statements from people that aren't here, we have multiple neighbors supporting our garage that weren't able to appear at the hearing either, that we submitted with our application.
Gotcha. Yeah, sure. I would certainly look at all those letters, give them equal weight. Okay. Well, I guess we will leave it at that then. This is just it's kind of hard to see on Google Maps or anywhere else, and so I think I'm gonna just do a quick. I'm required to do a site visit, which I typically do for most projects. Some of them are just plain enough and simple enough and easy enough to see online that I'm able to do a visit virtually. But I think I might just swing by and just take a look at this easement. And so I will hold off on an official decision until then. But I generally agree with the arguments made by Mr. Spillane. And so if you could give me, I mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, a couple weeks, which I think is a realistic time frame based on the current queue of cases that I have. As soon as I make a decision, I have to put it in writing. As soon as I finish that decision, I put it into a PDF and I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete. Assuming that it is approved, there will you'll be able to have Mr. Lashide approve the permitting and hopefully at that point move forward with the project. If it's denied, or for anyone that's listening to the live stream, if you would like to appeal the decision, that is possible to do within 30 days of the decision. And so, yeah, I think that's everything. Any questions about the process or anything else right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Great. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those. I can't accept any new evidence or testimony or anything like that now that the hearing is over. It is closed, but I can't answer questions about process. And I can, of course, if you have a question about the status of the decision, I can provide an update on that as well. If you, again, just reach out to me directly.
And just a quick note, if you need my client's phone number, please let me know. I don't think you should have any problem accessing this from the easement or from the street, but just in case you do, just let us know and we can get that to you so you can arrange a further site visit if need be.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it will likely just be, shooting back there and then shooting back out. So
Understand.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you all again for your time and your testimony. Hope you have a great day and you'll hear from me soon. We are
Have a
adjourned.
wonderful morning.